Good evening, good afternoon. Again, continuing re-recording what I recorded um, days ago, weeks ago, whenever it happened. Okay, here we go. Okay. Um. Okay.
Okay, we're starting to transmit. Great. Very good. Reading Bert Hellinger's book, A Philosophy of Being, Rising in Love, published in 2008 from the Hellinger Sciencia um, editorial
Whoops.
publishing company. You hold in your hands a kind of prism. The light shines through it. Let me hit the back up. And is refracted into the far reaches of the color spectrum. The colors themselves capture our imaginations. And then there is the place in each of us that carries those colors into the world. In this way, we too are prisms. And through the very permutations of our own understanding, these distinct and related hues can be merged into a great expansiveness. Bert Hellinger calls this book Rising in Love. What is love? It is a white light into myriad variations. It is a myriad it is myriad variations combined into white light. In the end and in the beginning, rising in love is a state of being. Hellinger Sciencia. I do hope we're transmitting. I've sometimes realized that I think I'm transmitting, but I'm not. And it's interesting. Let's see if I am transmitting. Oh dear. Well, I'll take a chance. This is a new YouTube channel only for English speaking people. I will be only transmitting in English in this channel. I think it's called Learning with Gloria.
And I need to tell you that I decided to just transmit in this channel, Jardín de Constelaciones, and go from there. Anyway, let's continue.
Our conscious binds us to the group that is necessary for our survival. No matter what conditions the group sets, conscious is not above the group with all its beliefs and superstitions, but rather is in the service of the group. Just as a tree is not free to decide where it will grow, but develops differently depending on whether it is in the open or in the midst of a forest, in a protected valley, or on an exposed mountaintop. So a child molds himself or herself unquestionably to the group of origin and hangs on with absolute strength and tenacity. The need to belong makes an indelible imprint on the child's being. This belonging means love and happiness to the child, irrespective of whether the child will flourish or wither in the group. Conscience reacts to everything that enhances or endangers belonging in the family. Therefore, we have a good conscience when we are certain that we can continue to belong to the group, and we have a bad conscience when we fear that we have deviated from the rules in a way that we have lost our right to belong, at least partially. Like the carrot and the stick, both a good and a bad conscience serve the same purpose, moving us in the same direction. Together, they both bind us firmly to our roots and our clan. Conscience decides according to the standards of the group we belong to. Consequently, people who come from different groups have different consciousness, have different consciences. And people who belong to several groups have a different conscience for each group. Conscience binds us to our system, keeping watch, much as a sheepdog keeps the sheep close to the main flock. However, when we change our surroundings, our conscience changes color like a chameleon for our own protection. So we have a different conscience with our mother than with our father. And again, a different one in our family than in our profession, another one in church, and another in our social circle. Yet, in all instances, conscience is concerned about belonging and the love in our important groups, and about the fear of separation and loss. What we do, what do we do when belonging to one group competes with belonging to another group? We try as best we can to balance the conflicting demands. Oh, I'm concerned about it. Not, let's see, 10, philosophy. Let's see if it shows. No. Yes, it's here. Yes, it's here. Yes, it's here. Yes. Wow. I'm happy. I'm happy because I don't need to start again. Continuing. Consideration. A mother and father consulted a therapist as to what they should do with their daughter. The mother had to set some boundaries for her, and she did not feel sufficiently supported by her husband.
Whoops.
The therapist explained the rules of successful upbringing to them, which took 3 sentences. The first one: in bringing up children, mother and father will see different things as important, either because they were important in their families of origin or because they were missing. Second sentence: the child obeys and acknowledges precisely what was seen as valid or what was missing in the families of origin of both parents. Third, when one of the parents asserts him or herself against the other in the child's upbringing, the child will secretly side with the dominant parent and tend to become like that parent. Next, the therapist suggested to the parents that they allow themselves to see where and how their child loved them. At this, they looked into each other's eyes, and both their faces lit up. Lastly, the therapist advised the father to sometimes show his daughter how pleased he feels when she gets on well with her mother. Loyalty. Conscious binds us most strongly when we have a low position in a group and are at its mercy. The more powerful we become in a group, the less dependent we feel on it. And with that, the grip of conscience eases too. But the weaker members of a group are conscientious and remain loyal because they are bound most strongly. In a family, the weak ones are the children. In a business, it is the workers on the lowest scale. In an army, it is the ordinary soldiers. And in a church, it is the congregation of believers. For the well-being of the strong ones in the group, the weak conscientiously risk their health, their innocence, their happiness, and their lives, even when the strong exploit them ruthlessly for their so-called higher goods, higher goals. These are the enlisted people who stick their necks out for those above them, the executioners who are prepared to do the dirty work, the heroes fighting a lost battle, the sheep who follow their shepherd, even when he leads them to the slaughterhouse, and the innocent victims who have to pay the price. And it is the children who throw themselves into the breach for their parents or ancestors, who bring to completion what they did not begin, who atone for what they did not do, and who carry the burden for acts they have not committed. Here is an illustration. Making room. A father reprimanded his son when he was sulky, and during the night the child hanged himself. The man grew old, and still this continued to weigh heavily on his conscience. Then, in a conversation with a friend, he remembered a few days before the child committed suicide, the child's mother sat at the table and explained that she was pregnant again. The boy cried out in great distress, "Oh God, we haven't got any space." Now the old father understood. The child had hanged himself in order to release his parents from their worries. He had made room for the new child. Loyalty and illness. This is the book is divided into small parts. We have loyalty and illness. That's what I'm going to be reading right now. And I read from this page, just so you know. Loyalty and illness. The love within the family can also show itself in serious illness. For instance, an anorexic girl says in her child soul to one of her parents, "I would rather go than you." Such illness is therefore very difficult to cure because for our child soul, it is proof of innocence and guarantees and safeguards our right of belonging. Being ill is proof of loyalty. Despite assurances, a solution will be feared and avoided because healing entails, on one level, a loss of belonging and feelings of guilt and betrayal. Boundaries. Where conscience binds, it also limits and excludes. Often, to remain in our group, we have to deny the right of membership to others who deviate from the values of the group. Our conscious demands that we exclude them simply because they are different. Because of conscious, we can become a threat to others. Being excluded from the group is what we fear most for ourselves, and yet, in the name of conscious, this is precisely what we do to others, simply because they are different. But what we do to others in the name of conscious, others do to us as well. Then we mutually set up boundaries for what is deemed good. We tell each other that we are not good, and for the bad, we remove this limitation in the name of conscious. Individuals on either side are willing to be bad to others because what we perceive as the other's badness allows and demands from us to be bad to them. Guilt and innocence are therefore not the same as good and bad. Often we do bad things with a clear conscience and good deeds with a bad conscience. We do bad things with a clear conscience when we think they guarantee us the right to belong to our group. By the same token, we do good things with a bad conscience when we fear that by doing them we may lose our right to belong. By the same token, we do good things with a bad conscience when we fear that by doing them we may lose our right to belong. Goodness. Therefore, the good that reconciles and furthers peace has to go beyond the limits that conscience sets through our need to belong to our small group or our specific group. This good follows a different law, a hidden law that is at work in things simply because they exist. In contrast to the ways and means of conscience, it is like water flowing underground, silently and hardly noticed. We recognize its good only by its effects. Conscience, however, makes a noise where things simply exist. For instance, on entering a garden, a child wonders at all the life that grows there, and his or her whole being listens to a bird that's singing in a bush. Then a grown-up enters the garden and says, "Look, that's nice." Now the child, instead of being lost in wonder, must pay attention to words that analyze and interpret. The natural connection to what is now replaced by statements and assessments. Family conscience. Conscience binds us so powerfully to our families and other groups that we feel obliged to identify with the sufferings and guilt of our ancestors, even though we are not often consciously aware of this. So, through this conscience, we become blindly entangled in other people's guilt and innocence, in other people's thinking, worrying, feeling, in other people's quarrels and their consequences, and in others' goals and in their ends. When, for example, a daughter takes care of her elderly parents and is looked down upon and ridiculed by her siblings and the rest of the family because she sacrificed the happiness of a family of her own. Then later, a niece, without even knowing these circumstances and without a position of her own about the matter, will imitate her aunt's life and suffer the same fate. Here, another comprehensive conscience is secretly at work It contrasts with our own personal conscience that we feel, and it has priority over it. Our superficial personal conscience makes us blind to the hidden comprehensive conscience, and often we offend against this comprehensive conscience exactly by following our personal conscience. The personal conscience that we feel serves an order that manifests through drives, needs, and reflexes. The deeper comprehensive conscious works in secret and remains unrecognized, as does the order that it serves. Therefore, we cannot sense this order. We recognize it only by its effects, most often in the suffering that comes from ignoring this deeper conscience. It is foremost the children who suffer for this reason. The personal conscious relates to those with whom we feel connected: parents, siblings, relatives, friends, partners, and children. Through this conscious, they are given a voice and a place in our soul. The hidden, comprehensive conscious comes into play for those people who have been excluded from our souls and our consciousness. Such exclusion comes in many forms and from many sources. We may fear or condemn them. We may not want to acknowledge their fate or that others from the family have harmed them without naming their guilt, let alone facing and addressing it. We may turn our backs to the price they paid for what we took or received, while they received no gratitude and honor. This conscience looks after the rejected and the disowned, the forgotten and the dead. It does not leave those in peace who are secure in their belonging until they have given the excluded ones a place and a voice in their hearts and returned them to their rightful position in the family or group. The right to belong. The family conscience gives the same right of belonging to all its members. It makes sure that all who belong are actually acknowledged as equal members. It watches over belonging in a far more comprehensive way than does the personal conscience. It knows no exceptions, not even murderers. Not even murderers. It watches over belonging in a far more comprehensive way than does the personal conscience. It knows no exceptions, not even murderers. We will continue here with repetition compulsion, 32, page 32, and I will check on what I wrote as to what I was reading. Thank you very much. Continuing the next one with repetition compulsion. Good evening, good night, good morning, whenever you happen to listen to this video or see it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Whoops. Okay. I'm going to check and see. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on. No. No, no, no. No. I did it better this time, I think. Anyway, good evening, good night. I'll check and see how that goes. And if not, I'll record it again. Good night. Good morning. Until we meet again. Thank you.